Welcome back, everyone, to the ADD Show, where we're not always right, but we're never wrong. As always, I'm Mark.
And I'm Hans, and welcome back, everybody, to the show. Been about a week since you guys have heard from us. Last time you guys heard from us, right? We did NHL, and we did some NBA stuff. So this week we wanted to kind of do about the same thing, but we wanted to bring the NHL back. We were told by Logan, one of our fans, I guess really not a fan, just kind of, been around for a long time, right? But we were told that we had the playoff bracket wrong for the NHL. Mm-hmm. We didn't realize they had changed it, so we're going to go in and do the NHL again, and readjust accordingly. And then we're going to talk a little MLB. I know we're only about, 3 weeks into the season, but things are already starting to shape up pretty good. And then at the end, we'll just talk about whatever, and we'll give you guys some a little bit of a foresight into next week's episode, which will be a little early, having some of the guys on. We're going to have 2 people with us next week. Yep. So how about that, Mark? How you doing today?
Good. Excited to, everything's coming down to the wire now for hockey and basketball. Got 13 games left in hockey. Got about, 15-plus games left in the NBA. So everything's coming down to the wire, and then I'm getting so sick of the NFL talk. I just want the draft to happen.
You ain't the only one.
Because that's just what's important. But other than that, doing good. How about yourself?
Hanging in there. Same thing. Ready for the NFL draft to be here.
Yep.
Ready to stop the rumors. All these rumors, and 95% of them are fake. Yeah. Rumors that a team wants to trade all of its talent for number 2. A report that the Jags are talking about trading out of 1. Whether or not it's a report or not, people they're listening to calls. They ain't listening to calls. There ain't no way they're giving up that number 1 pick. So I'm just ready for it to be here and see what happens.
But everybody's listening to calls. Miami's listening to calls.
Of course.
Panthers are,
Of course. They'll listen. But the way they say it, like we talked about last week, makes it seem like they're listening.
Yeah.
But unless you have 8 number 1 picks, ain't nobody all this year, no one's going to do that kind of pick because the Jaguars know this is a once-in-a-10-year draft. If Trevor Lawrence wasn't here, you could trade out into pick number 1.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's a surefire like that. So, Other than that, man, I'm excited for the hockey playoffs, Stanley Cup. I'm excited the baseball's rolling. I wish we didn't change my TV provider, obviously, so I could watch more Orioles, but I'm excited. I watched a couple.
I ain't paying for cable. That is just
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
ridiculous. But you
expensive.
But you saw the NFL with Hulu partnering up for that red zone thing. Mm-hmm. So we need Hulu to get on board with the bringing in maybe Masson. Depending on where you buy Hulu from, your region, you can get that region sports network because I'd like to watch the Orioles games again.
Yeah. I'm excited for the NFL Network and Red Zone to be included.
Especially someone like me, and even you, your team's not exactly local, and mine really isn't either, whereas Dallas has primetime games, but there's a lot of games I don't get, and it's nice to have that availability to be able to get those teams. Right. If you're a Ravens fan or DC, you get every game.
Yeah. So real quick, I do want to talk about something, again, on Facebook, a discussion that was had between Jeff, Nate, and a few other people. Logan was on there. And he's talking about rebranding the Washington. Mm-hmm. Getting rid of the colors, getting rid of everything, and starting over. Starting fresh. Yep. Everything. And there was this big article that I read that prompted this discussion. And it is an interesting concept, and he pretty much just laid it out as, let's get rid of it all. He goes, it doesn't matter. Let's, do something. He's big on doing something patriotic. You're Washington. You're in Washington, D.C.
Literally the capital of the country.
He wants a red, white, and blue scheme, patriotic, stars and stripes type thing. And it sounds like, pretty cool idea. And, Logan had said burgundy and gold's got to stay. And his point is no. He goes, if we're gonna do a new name, everything, get rid of everything. Start over.
I want to add in that because I didn't say this the last few times we've talked about it, but I've been thinking about this. For DC, some of the fans want to keep the colors. Some of the other fans just say, let's go with the red wolves or the red tails or the red this. It seems like you're holding on to too much of the old name. Not the old name, that's what I'm saying, but in a way we're well, our colors are still red, so let's find something that's red, like a red wolf. That's not cool. No offense, it's not. So, if you did a whole rebrand, knowing the Wizards are this color in general, I'm just saying, even the Capitals have these colors. Be nice to go with a red, white, and blue scheme, something involving DC, something patriotic. It's just 2 colors. And no offense, burgundy and maroon don't go good together.
Have you ever in your life seen a team change its name?
I've seen some college football teams, a couple, but nothing serious.
I've seen a professional team change their name.
I wasn't around for the Oilers, but I guess they moved, right? They
moved, name, so they didn't change their name.
So we're not including those.
So the only team that I can remember in my lifetime, like the Boston Braves, the Braves went to Atlanta and Boston became the Red Sox, things like that. That's not in my time. In my time, the Washington Bullets became the Washington Wizards.
You are right. Yep. That wasn't in my time. But
Baltimore Colts, people will say Baltimore Colts became the Baltimore Ravens, but that team moved.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a team for a few years, so that isn't a rebrand or anything like that. That's a new team. Yeah. This would be just like what the Bullets had to do back in the day. They had to get rid of, they even changed, they didn't change the red, white, and blue. Or the whatever, it was red, white, and blue that they were, and it was the Bullets, but they became the Wizards. And they kept the red, white, and blue and everything, but they went as far away from the Bullets as they could have.
And I think that's my personal pet peeve the more we talk about this, is that I keep seeing more of the red tails, the red birds, the red trees, the red potatoes, or But
you could do the red wolves with a red, white, and blue theme.
You could. I also don't mind the color scheme they have, but I think it'd be a breath of fresh air to the fan base to get as far away from whatever this name may be, whether people think it's whatever the name is. Clearly, it's offensive to people, so get as far away from it as you can. Rebrand. I like the idea. What did you say? Jeff is his name?
Yes.
I don't hate that idea. I just read it about an hour before we came on air. Read it over in the comments. I didn't know you were going to bring it up, actually, but I don't mind the idea. I know the fans want to hang on to it, right? But it's not going to hurt you to change it. If Dallas said, we're not going to do the Cowboys because it's offensive, we're going to change our name, I'd be like, well, give me some team names, right? But see, their team has a color in it. Red. Does that make sense? Because their old name. So I can understand hanging on to that. But something...
But even, to his point, people are like, mascots equal marketability. And this person said, mascots equal marketability. I mean, really, what is a national? This is somebody that's friends with Jeff on Facebook, and his response was very easy. He goes, I think they do fine selling Nationals merch. And they do. And to his point, it's all about winning.
Yeah.
When the Orioles are winning, the merchandise flies off the shelf. When they're not, maybe once a year a diehard fan buys a new shirt.
Yeah.
Or buys a new hat. Or, and it is. And once a year, I'm a diehard Orioles fan, but it's been probably 2-3 years since I've bought in a new shirt or
and I didn't
anything.
miss Orioles games for years, but the same thing.
And so it's I see it, and the more and more I see some of these people responding, I see more and more of his point. If you go that route and you do the rebrand, you just start over. And the initial rebrand will sell merchandise, but it only will be sustained if you're winning.
And remember this is something the DC fans have to hold on to. I'm a Wizards fan. We don't ignore the fact that the Bullets existed. We don't ignore the fact that the Bullets had really good seasons back then. A few, right? So people are like, well, if we rebrand, then, the whole old school term is gone of all of our Super Bowl rings. No one's going to forget what y'all did with a different colored uniform. No one's going to forget that you had that logo on your helmet. We're not hating the fans and the team for having the logo, right? Well, what needs to happen is they need to figure this out, because I can tell you what they don't need to do. I don't care if they pick Red Wolves. I don't care if they pick the Presidents. Whatever they decide to pick color scheme, they cannot roll with the football club. They can't roll with football team. It's not going to work. And
why not?
Why not?
Yeah, to his point, and I'm going to ask you, why not? It's all about winning.
Well, it is all about winning.
So, for Logan's point, okay, you're the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your name.
Yeah.
You're burgundy and gold. You just have numbers on your helmets with a burgundy, a gold stripe down the thing. Merchandise sold last year. It may not have sold as much, but if you commit to this name, and you commit to what this is, people will buy it, especially if they keep winning.
I think what's going to happen is I think you might bring in a whole different type of fan base, a younger fan that finds more interest in your uniform set if you did actually pick an actual uniform and a new logo and rebranded the team. A lot of, and I don't care if they keep football club, pick one. Let people know what you're picking so people can roll with it, because no one wants to spend their money going into this year.
But they pick Washington football team.
That's what they're picking. They're sticking with that.
Why not?
But if they are, then that's cool. They haven't said that, though, have they?
No, but they're not going to. But I think fans would be okay with it as long as they keep winning. Because the traditionalists like Logan, and I will say this because Logan is big about burgundy and gold.
Yeah.
The traditional fan probably likes the burgundy and gold and wants to keep the burgundy and gold.
Yeah.
That is what they want. And you have that, and you just have the Washington football team. To his point, you don't need a mascot to sell tickets.
You don't,
but
I also think they
win.
should have some sort of a logo, some sort of a mascot. I think it would help.
But again, help with what?
Just help in general with people being interested.
What makes people interested and what makes kids interested is winning.
So think about it in the MLB perspective. I did this today when I did my notes. What is the worst name in the MLB that you can think of for a team?
Don't know.
Oakland Athletics. They sold the least amount of merchandise last year. And I'm not saying it's because of their name.
They have the smallest fan base.
I understand that. I mean, is it smaller than Tampa?
Yeah, actually it is.
Okay, because I know Tampa's the least amount of money of all the teams.
But Florida is one of the biggest.
It is.
But
the point I'm making is I just wanted to compare that. I don't care what they do. I just would like them to pick one, and I think having some sort of relevant of a cool name of some sort. What is an athletic? That doesn't make any sense.
What's a national?
Well, it makes sense because you're in the nation's capital. That makes sense.
Okay, but what
athletic
is a
Padre? Is a type of skill.
What does a Padre have
Spanish
to do
for daddy.
Okay, but if you're going to come up with name, it's not the name.
Well,
merchandise isn't going to sell if you do not have a winning culture. And I will give you case in point. The only people that know anybody on the Oakland Athletics is people that go to those games.
Yeah.
Not a single person. So you're not going to sell merchandise outside of your market.
But
Tampa Bay has the TB, people will buy that. People will, because of the color also. Tampa Bay sells a little bit more outside, but Florida's bigger, so more people will buy that merch. You can't base how successful a team is off of their merchandise sales. So their mascot isn't going to make their merchandise sell more.
You just made a good point, though. You said something about winning. You said it keeps winning going, right? Something about the name. So the point is, you said it doesn't matter as long as they're winning.
Yes.
DC's had one good year in 25 years.
Right. And their merchandise sales haven't been good.
But that's what I'm saying. So as long as they're winning, it doesn't matter. So they're not winning. They've had one good year.
But the culture is changing. And New York Yankees. Mm-hmm. What the hell is that? Okay? If you want to be specific, it's the NY on that hat.
Yeah.
And it's blue. And that's why it's popular. You could probably take somebody out of Oklahoma that's wearing a New York Yankees hat, and he can't name 5 people on that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. The Dodgers, the emblem, the way they do their emblem and everything like that makes it look good. If you are a fan of this team, you don't care what Washington football team should be fine. And then your younger fans will start watching if they're winning. Because that's all they get. Like you said it yourself. I bet you there's more Raven fans right now than there were years, but there are Washington fans because they're on especially in this area because they're constantly on TV. Yeah. And who are you going to watch if you're a young kid? A team that's winning or a team that's losing?
Well, of course you're going to watch a team that's winning.
Exactly. So to Jeff's point, all that matters is winning.
Yeah.
And to have that culture of credibility, to have that culture of respect, and that is where Washington is going.
I think my point is I don't care what they do. I'd rather them just pick one, and that's what they're going to go with because there are fans. Like if I was a fan, right, and I'm different than most, I don't buy uniforms of my favorite players unless I know they're going to be there for a few years. So it might be the same thing with a fan. You may not want to buy a $115, let's say, I don't know, Terry McLaurin jersey when you know they're going to be blue and yellow next year. Just like you may not want to invest your money not knowing what the logo or the team name will be. So it might be better for them to just come out football team forever. No more guessing. No, just let everybody know so they feel more comfortable going forwards that that's their team name. They've already went from Redskins now to football team. They're going to have to do it again. We already still fumble this. So I'd rather them just pick one, stick with it, and move on. No matter what they do, as a fan, yes, they're a rival of my team. I want them to figure this out. Just pick one so everybody knows what you are. I don't care what they do. I don't think it matters, honestly, mascot or not. I think it would be cooler to have a cool mascot. That's always cool. But I don't think it sells any more tickets or not.
But the Cowboys aren't cooler because they have a guy riding around on a horse.
No, that doesn't make them cooler. I'm just saying at this point right now, at the low of you are as a team, you might want to surprise your fans with something cool.
But again, why?
Because it's money. Everything involves money.
But it's not going to get you money if you're not winning. The Philly Fanatic is one of the most famous mascots in the world. And nobody buys Philly merchandise if they're not winning.
I understand.
So...
It doesn't make a difference.
Winning makes the difference.
Well, they have to win. That's the thing.
But again, they won the division last year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that they were 7-9. They won the division
I know
last
that.
year. So it's, and it's all about winning. You wouldn't have so many Patriot fans in the world right now if they didn't win the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The difference is that's 20 years of winning versus 1. But I understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
They need to continue
But
winning.
you still have the history of the Redskins as being winners. And again, in the last 20 years, no, but in the history of the team,
I
yes.
understand.
So you still have that, and you have those hardcore fans still that are my age and older that understand that and don't. They just want the culture to be back to the way it was. They want their franchise to be respected again, and it's not. And they don't. It's a renaming isn't going to bring that back.
That's why a lot of people are saying just completely throwing it away, doing a whole new color scheme to get away from any negativity that was there. That's why I can understand what Jeff's saying, but I can also understand what Logan's saying. As me, I don't care what they do. I would rather them just pick an idea, and that's their idea. They're going to roll with it. But I can understand saying, let's get away from the burgundy and maroon completely because it has a negative context to the old name, and as soon as they see the word red, they're going to want to say Redskin again, and it's offensive to...
Well, I mean, think about the team song. It's Hail to the Redskins.
Yeah.
People are going to sing that song
They're
regardless.
Still going to sing it, exactly.
But I just think it's a very interesting, and I am more on his side now than I ever was about it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't.
Jeff?
It doesn't matter. The name does not matter. Your team name does not matter.
No.
And, to your case in point, you always say, how many Patriot fans in the last 20 years can name somebody from 21 years ago?
Not many.
And it's one or two things that, but how many Dallas players can you name from the 80s?
A few, but not as many.
And I mean, I'd probably even say before the Super Bowl, how many Cowboys before they won the back-to-back 3 out of 5 years?
Probably 5 to 6, maybe 7.
Exactly.
I also wasn't born, but yeah.
Winning makes you remember.
But I will say this is the difference. I only remember like 3 playoff games from Dallas. I was a fan after they were bad.
Right.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
When you look at the history of the Cowboys, you look at when they won.
Yeah.
And when they became relevant again. And now in the 80s, 70s and 80s, they were relevant.
Yeah.
Not beginning late 80s, early 90s, they were not. They were bad. And then they sold, and all of a sudden they became good. And, and it's, those are the things that will get you the fans. Those are the things, and it's all about winning. Now, diehard fans don't care about, they care about winning, but they're not going to change teams because their team doesn't win. Like Nate and Logan aren't going to change teams because their team didn't win. The team they grew up loving hasn't won a playoff game.
If Dallas changed their name or logo color, I would still be a fan because that's who I'm a fan of. So I can understand where you're coming from with the team name change. They're going to be a fan no matter what they decide. Right. I think me just being an outside fan, I'd like them to just let everybody know what their final decision is. That way we know what to officially call them. That's all I want to know. It doesn't matter. I understand
They're Washington.
Well, then we'll just go with
They're
Washington.
Dallas.
Well, I understand.
It's just one of those things. Like
I'm of a different age where I don't call teams usually by their first name. I call team not their city. I always call team by their team name. So I just Dallas versus Cowboys versus football club. I want to have a better ring to it.
Football team.
Football, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's the WFTs, not the WFCs.
Whoa.
I'm just saying. I mean, if you're going to call them the name, then because they were the Washington football team.
Is it the WTFs?
No.
You sure it's not that? Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah. So, but I just find that this conversation very interesting, and I really think he has a hard time with people discussing it and taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's, mascots will sell to people that are young, to the young kids. Mascots don't sell to people, you didn't buy Redskins t-shirts because it had the Redskin logo on it. You bought it because it said the Washington Redskins, or it was the burgundy and gold and everything. You didn't buy it because of their logo.
But I think in a small way, and I'll say a small portion of this, you do also have to decide if they are going to do something, because you did say it only matters to the younger fan. Well, that is your future. That is your future fan, and you want them to join a team, join you, and you want them to be like, this is a cool mascot, this is a cool this.
Yep.
That's kind of what the younger, I say, a Golden State fan did. But once they're irrelevant, those teams don't care. Those kids don't care anymore.
No, but also like the Golden State Warriors. Mm-hmm. Fans didn't become fans of theirs because they were the Warriors.
Yeah.
Kids became fans of theirs because they won, and kids stayed fans of theirs because they kept winning.
Yeah.
Now, where are these kids going to be 10 years from now? Are they still going to be Warrior fans?
Probably
when
not.
Steph is retired and they're maybe not winning as much? That's the key. And yes, people like me, I grew up, the Bengals were relevant. The Bengals were good, and then they were awful, and I stayed with them. You know what I mean? To see a day where the culture changed. And for a good 10 years, the culture changed again. And then it went to crap again, but now you're seeing something on the horizon, and I think that's what Washington fans are seeing, is they're seeing something on the horizon that's getting them excited.
Yeah,
these fans, and if you have a 5 to 10-year-old kid, and you go to a game or you're watching on TV and they're good, that's what makes fans.
Yeah,
not anything else. And that's the thing. It may draw your attention as far as the logo or, the color scheme or something like that, but it's the winning that keeps you.
I would say in general, I would say I'm probably the anomaly of the winning part, because the first years I watched Dallas, they only won 3 games. So, but I would say I know what you're saying. In general, winning does attract more fans. Yeah. I like when the teams are bad. I like underdog stories.
Yeah.
One day I'll see a Super Bowl.
That's good, because the Cowboys have been bad for a long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they've been pretty bad for a while. A couple of good years in there, right? Yeah. We had the one catch that should have been a catch to play in the Super Bowl. You know how that works.
Keep living on that. Keep talking about 5 years ago.
That was more than 5.
That
was 2013.
But that's the thing. Everybody's still talking about that, and let it go.
You know what is funny though? I will say this, because you guys can probably go back.
You can't let it go.
No, it doesn't bother me. You guys can go as far back as you want. Okay?
It doesn't bother me. You bring it up at least 20 times a year.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I want you to go.
I think we can go back to this podcast.
Yeah.
And you've already brought it up 3 times in this podcast.
I bet maybe once. But I do want you to go back through all the podcasts if you do a chance, and tell me if I've ever mentioned the fact that Dallas has 5 Super Bowls.
Probably not, because you didn't see one.
Because I don't care. So, but I wanted to go back to
you
your thing about...
You do care.
No.
You care that you have never seen a Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl.
I care about that. I don't care about somebody saying, oh, you're Dallas fans because they're good. No, I don't talk about the Super Bowls because they weren't a part of the Dallas I watched. The Dallas Cowboys I watched since I was a kid have about the same winning percentage as DC and the Browns do. That's the Dallas Cowboys I grew up watching.
A little bit better than
better than the Browns.
A little bit
Well, don't forget, since 2000, I think DC has a worse winning percentage than the Browns do.
Maybe.
It was pretty close.
Yeah.
The Lions have to be there, too.
But...
I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. I completely understand Jeff's point, and I understand Logan's point. As a diehard fan, you want to feel some sort of relevancy still.
But I do feel like it is, like you had said in the thing, keeping the burgundy and gold, you're trying to keep something...
Yeah.
Of the past, and it's I think you should let it go. You had to lose your nickname because of the way the world is these days and age, but let it go and rebrand, and you just see what you can come up with. Have fan vote-ins, and then pick the top 10, and then have everybody vote on it and see what comes up.
And have somebody create uniform logo designs and vote on it.
And vote on,
let the fans do it, because the fans will speak, because the fans are the ones buying your tickets. I don't think, and I'll say this forever, if Dallas ever changed a whole new uniform set like the Bengals just did, or they change their colors. I want fans to be completely deciding of the factor. And the reason, fans and players, not the owners, because we are the ones buying the stuff. We're the ones that support this. So I think if DC ever did something like this with 10 options, it should go to the Twitters and like even a direct email to all the fans' phones. Even I can vote if I want. Anybody. And it should be completely fan driven because they're the ones that want to see it on the field.
Okay.
But to me, I don't care what DC does. That doesn't really bother me.
Right.
But I think holding on is kind of dumb.
Okay. All right.
So what do we got?
So let's change course drastically here, 90-degree turn, and talk about the hockey, where we messed up.
Is that 90 degrees or is that 180?
I don't know. It's one of them.
Too many corners.
So there's going to be 4 teams from each of the 4 divisions making the playoffs.
Yep.
Those 4 teams will play in a 4-team tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The winner of that tournament is then reseeded based off regular season record to be in the Final Four. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're going to have one team from the Central.
Is it record? Sorry, or was it points?
Points.
Okay, you said record.
Okay, yeah, well, you usually have the best record if you have the best points, most points.
Well, usually, but you can have a tie and have 2 different amounts of points.
Right.
So not by much. But.
So Central, East, North, and West are all going to have one team represented. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, what those 4 teams are going to be based off of is points. So you could have, say, I'm going to name the top teams in every single division right now.
As of today.
As of right now.
Thursday.
Which there is ties everywhere, but I'm just going to use the team that's up top. Carolina, Washington, Toronto, and Vegas. Mm-hmm. Okay? As these point totals are right now, it would be Vegas
as a 1 seed.
As a 1 seed versus Toronto as the 4 seed. Mm-hmm. And you would have Washington versus Carolina versus Washington.
And Washington be the 3?
Washington would be the... Yes, Washington is the 3rd.
Carolina has what, 63 points?
65.
65, yeah.
Yep. So, and that's how it would go. Now, you could have a scenario where, say, by chance, it's Carolina, Washington... Let me pick a... Winnipeg. No, I did that wrong. So Carolina and Vegas as 1 and 2. Okay. And then say you have the Bruins and Toronto. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, did that wrong again. Basically, what could happen is the Central could play the East.
Yeah. So
you could have 2 technically East Coast teams playing in the finals that are usually in the same division.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be the East it might not be East versus West. Mm-hmm. Which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
You know,
imagine a Bruins Capitals Stanley Cup. That'd be nuts.
Well, you can't because they're in the same division.
I know, but
you could have a Washington Carolina.
Since they're rivals
anyways.
You could have
a Washington Tampa. You could have a Boston Tampa. You know, you could have like a big rivalry in these finals where, you know, you're looking at it as, okay, you know, that's a big deal. I don't like it, to be completely honest.
I hope this is only a 1-year thing. I'm sure Logan can let us know, but it seems like it is, right?
It's for COVID.
Yeah.
So, like, in the East, you only played the East teams.
Yeah.
You know, and so you haven't even played these other teams yet.
Wait, so far this season?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't watched a lot of the games this
so
year.
the Central Division has only played the Central Division.
All year. Wow.
All year.
Okay.
The East has only played the East. So it's just like I think Washington and the Islanders have 6 or 7 games left against each other.
Yeah, the next 3 in a row.
And so they're tied at points with 62. Mm-hmm. Bruins have 58. They have 7 games against New Jersey and Buffalo.
Washington does have, even though they're tied at points, they have the tiebreaker right now still, though. They have the better away record of all the teams.
Okay.
They have the better away record over New York, Pittsburgh, and Boston. So they're all tied in away right now.
Yep.
And same thing, because they have a 3-2 home record, away record against the Islanders. So if it ended today, they'd still be the 1 over the Islanders.
Right.
And they play them 3 straight right now.
Yes.
I think tonight at 7. So.
Like these 13 games left are all it's all division games. So like I know the Bruins play Pittsburgh a few times and the Rangers a few times. And then the majority of their games are against New Jersey and Buffalo, who are 2 of the worst teams in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And with Washington and the Islanders battling it out, Bruins could easily jump them for a top spot.
Mm-hmm.
So these 13 games, like in my opinion, there is no point talking about seeding because anything can happen.
I also think in most of the divisions, and I would say I'm looking through here, I'd say in all of them, but the West and the Central, I'd say the East and the North in general are pretty much locked up with their top 4 teams. They could move around between the 4 of them, but they're practically locked up because Capitals, Islanders, Penguins, and Bruins, the Rangers are in the 5th place spot with 6 points behind.
Yes.
That's a lot to make up in 16 games.
13
games.
Yeah, so and I agree with you.
Same thing with the North.
Yeah, the Central, Dallas is only 2 points behind Nashville.
Yep.
And
then the Blackhawks is right 1 point behind, right there behind the Stars.
Yeah, and Calgary's 8 points behind Montreal.
Yep.
So but then you have Arizona only a point behind. St. Louis only a point behind Arizona.
But you have Golden Knights, Avalanche, and Minnesota, Colorado, way ahead of everybody else. Also, I do want to say something else because that's
a ridiculous division, by the way.
Dude, that division's very strong. But I will say this, I didn't realize this, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I looked at this right. I didn't realize the whole Northern Conference was all Canadian teams.
Yeah.
And no, there's no Canadian teams in any other division.
Yep, and that's because of COVID.
Was the North always just these teams?
No.
Okay, so they changed divisions around for this.
Yes.
That would make sense because this doesn't look right.
There was 6 divisions.
I thought so. Okay.
There was 6 divisions, and I believe it was 4 teams in each division.
Because that makes sense. I keep writing this down going, I didn't think there was this many teams in this many conferences like this.
Yes, there was 6 divisions and 4 teams in each division.
Gotcha.
And what they did because of COVID and NBA. Traveling and stuff, they redid everything, and that's why Canada hasn't come to the United States, and we haven't gone to Canada.
Gotcha.
Too much red tape with the whole
COVID thing.
And so, and if you look at it, it's like these Anaheim, LA, San Jose, and Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota, and Arizona, those are all legit Midwest and out. Mm-hmm. So those are all, and then you look at the North, you have everybody from Pittsburgh and Philly up.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Washington up.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is
part of the Central.
Yeah, Carolina down.
See, and that's when I wrote this. I was like, wait, are you telling me all the teams from the North are Canadian? I was like, and I'm actually going to say this. I wouldn't mind it staying like this.
The thing I don't like is like the Central Division to me, Carolina, Florida, Tampa, and Nashville have no business being in Dallas, Chicago, Detroit, and Columbus.
Makes sense. It makes sense. I just like how they have bigger conferences like this. I kind of like this.
The bigger conferences, I do not like the playoff format.
No, playoff format's got to go. This is junk. I understand for this year, but next year they got to go back because I keep writing the playoffs down, what would happen today, and I've wrote it wrong 3 times because of this new method.
Yep.
Because this shouldn't be what it's like this year.
The one thing I always liked about hockey was this. If the 8 seed beat the 1 and the 7 seed beat the 2, but the 3 seed beat the 6 seed, 3 seed played the 8 seed.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the best seed versus the worst seed in the next round too. It wasn't bracket style. It was always higher seed versus lowest seed. And I really liked that about hockey, and that's what I was hoping they would do. Are we boring you with the hockey talk?
No, it's just a good yawn.
And that's why like this whole thing, like, you're beating up on bad teams like San Jose, LA, and Anaheim, and St. Louis are really bad.
Yeah.
Even Arizona's bad. So those top 3 teams there, how good are they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I want to see, and that's what would have made it more fun if it was 1 through 8 and then they played each other.
So that's why I think, in my opinion, and this is maybe just what I'm looking at here, that the Central and the East, and I would probably go as far as saying, I would say mostly the Central. Those teams are all really close to each other. Let's just say the East. They've been beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
And all these teams aren't really that far off.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, the Bruins have 6 ties, like 6 overtimes. So that gives them a point. But they only have 12 losses. They have the least amount of losses in the East, and they're in 4th place.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's crazy that the top 3 teams are all 29-13, 29-13, 29-14.
Yep, and it's the difference between the Washington and the Islanders have the same exact record. Mm-hmm. So this is why hockey is very fun to watch this time of year, fun to pay attention to, fun to watch. I will say that something happened that really shocked me that I never thought in my life I would see. Patrick Marleau. I don't know if you've seen him on ESPN or in the news and everything. He just broke Gordie Howe's record for most games played. That is ridiculous because I've seen this kid's whole career. Like, he was drafted at 18. He's been in the league for 23 years.
It's a long time.
And he's good, and he's still good. And it's he's not putting up outrageous numbers.
It's also
like,
the epitome of health, too.
Yeah, he's got 500 goals. Mm-hmm. He's over 1,000 assists. He's solid. And he's going to easily be a Hall of Famer. But I looked at it and I'm like, I can't believe he's still playing. And I just thought about it because Gordie Howe, anybody that knows hockey, that is Gordie Howe's up there with the all-time greats. And he played until he was, I think, 50-something, which that's ridiculous in its own. But again, it just pays to how he trains and everything. But he's played over 1,700 games. Like, think about that. It's an 80, I believe, what is it, 82 games 82 normally games.
In a hockey season? Are they including playoffs in that, too? In his total?
I think it's total games, yes.
Okay, I think they'd have to.
So he was part of a Stanley Cup team, and everything, but I just found that pretty amazing. Like, it's just one of those players that you'll never talk about as being like a top 50 player, top 20 player of all time. It's like an Iron Man award
type thing in the NFL.
Yeah, yep. And I mean, 23 years, he's came in when he was 18, 23, what's that make him, 41? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's
kind of like in the NFL with, in a few years, like the Larry Fitzgerald. I know he'll probably still get mentioned, and Jason Witten's of the world, but like, they played a long time, didn't really do anything spectacular. I know Larry Fitzgerald is great, but like, none spectacular, but like, they played forever. Yeah. They played some of the most games of any player to ever play, and they played into their early 40s.
Yeah.
Well, they probably will, close to 40.
You look at Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady as well.
Drew Brees.
And you include the playoff games in there. It's like what I do with like LeBron James. You add up all of his career games and his playoff games. Yep. People like, man, he doesn't have a 6-0 record in the finals, but he's been to like 10. He's played all the way to the.
I believe the last time he hit where he played a full season of playoff games. So he's played a full regular season in the amount of playoff games he's been in. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's a lot of games.
And
no one is. I mean, that I don't know if anybody's played that many. I mean, I'm sure like Bill Russell and them back in the day played that many too because they were in the playoffs every year. But
the season wasn't as long.
It wasn't.
There wasn't as many teams, and the playoffs weren't as long.
Yeah.
So you're looking at. I mean,
this dude's the epitome of playing. He's played more basketball than anybody to play the game technically.
It's sometime in the 90s they changed it where the first round went to 7 games.
Gotcha.
And
first round used to be what, 3?
5. So, and then now you got in the NBA, there hasn't been much movement except in the East. The East, you're looking at a lot of movement. Boston went from 4 to 6 just because they had a couple losses, and the Knicks have won 9 straight.
I haven't paid attention to the Wizards. Were on a hot streak there for a minute.
Wizards have won 7 straight.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They're in the 10th spot by a half a game, which means they're in the play-in tournament. Mm-hmm. And they're the type of team, just because if Beal and Westbrook catch fire, they're the type of team you don't want to play in a one-game scenario.
Not one. I think in a series they'd lose whoever they played at the 1 seed or 2 seed. But yes, absolutely, I wouldn't want to one-off with them. In a one-game playoff game, I don't want to play them. They shoot really well. They just don't play defense.
And then you're looking at, Golden State is in the playing game.
Yeah, they're right on the edge. I saw that.
So it's the NBA just, again, I find that the NBA, when the face of the league is hurt, you lose fans. And you don't have the talk generated that you need. Nobody cares about Joel Embiid except for 76er fans. Nobody cares about Nikola Jokic except for Denver Nugget fans. Now, NBA fans and, even some novice fans know who he is.
Yeah.
But he's probably going to win the MVP this year.
Yeah.
And people are like, who?
Yeah.
But then two of your biggest stars on two of your best teams go out for the year. Where, Murray and...
Ball?
No, the Ball came back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Oh, man, what was his name? Murray and
This is the one from Murray State?
Donovan Mitchell.
Mitchell. Not Mitchell. He's Utah, I think.
So, those two guys went out, and it's like, so your top players and exciting players are hurt. LeBron and AD are hurt. Milwaukee they're relevant because they're third in the East, but, Giannis isn't having the year he had last year.
Do you think...
The NBA's in trouble.
Let me ask you this, because it's something I've been talking about with my clients all week that are sports clients. We had this discussion a long time ago, me, you, the guys in the group, and we said of the 5 American sports, we say this all the time, the biggest sports, and I think for the sake of the conversation, I know me and Logan talked about it, is I would throw a NASCAR in this. And I know people may not think it's sport, but I want to use it for this example. Is baseball, baseball, I thought baseball was going to be in the most trouble. Do you think basketball could be the first sport to go away forever?
No, we're never going to see a sport go away.
But you know what I mean? Like, why is it? When did it lose its luster? Why is it not where it should be? What do you think?
We had an NBA issue with Chandler.
Yeah.
And it was the end of last season. It was right before it was during the playoffs. We talked about who was going to win, and Chandler came on. And I would love to have Chandler and Malik on to talk about this because, and I'm going to bring this up, and I want their opinion of it. The NBA is in trouble, and just like baseball is in trouble, not because of rules, not because of anything, because who is the face of baseball? Who is the face of the NBA if LeBron's not playing?
The face of baseball would be Mike Trout, right?
But Mike Trout doesn't want to be in commercials.
No.
Mike Trout has come out and said, I just want to play baseball. He doesn't care about endorsements. Fernando Tatis, good young player.
Yeah, he is.
But again, he's hard to brand because he's only been a couple years in. Soto, Acuna, or they could, but again, they're so young, and I think in this area, Soto would be a good idea, but you don't have the advertisement. Like and Chandler and I talked about this. And I even asked this question, who is the next face of basketball?
You can't pick one.
You can't. Like when Jordan, you knew it was Kobe. You knew it was Kobe. Kobe was the face of the NBA. Jordan was the face of the NBA. Magic and Bird were the face of the NBA. Okay? In those years, you could go down the list of how many players there were. And I hate to say this, but Soto, teams like that, if they're not, and this might cause some controversy, but if they're not American born, people don't gravitate towards them unless they're a David Ortiz.
Well, that's the same thing I say with basketball about Giannis. He can't be the face of the league when and I mean in a nice way, he just doesn't fit what the American people want as the face of the league in their sport.
Right.
It doesn't take away his greatness. Luka, same thing.
Is absolutely ridiculously good. Now, people would say Zion.
Yeah.
No, Zion's not. You need to have a relevant team.
Yeah.
And sorry, New Orleans isn't relevant.
Or a player that goes to new teams and makes that new team relevant every time.
Exactly. And they need to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But they also need to be on a team, no offense to Utah.
Yeah.
Okay? Utah's the best team in the league right now. And it's not they're a game and a half up against the next team and 3 games up on the other team. But even their best player isn't the face. Yeah. And when Utah was going to back-to-back titles with Karl Malone and John Stockton, 2 of the 50th best players to ever play the game, they weren't the face of the league. They weren't, and this is where the NBA is having a problem. And this is where the NFL never has a problem. The NFL is going to market you always. And they will market you until you're not marketable. So Deshaun Watson was in commercials.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Deshaun Watson had Nike deals. You saw him on posters. But now, because of all the legal trouble, no.
Yeah.
Dak was doing, like
Sleep
Cam.
Number.
Cam was doing all these yogurt commercials.
Dak
and
pretty
they
much
even
took
said,
all of those from
exactly,
Cam.
because Cam became somebody that wasn't winning. So they took it and they said, who's the next guy? And that is what the NFL does. And that's why the NFL will always be great. Now, NASCAR, to your point, who is the face of NASCAR? There isn't one.
Probably Chase Elliott. But you'd have to be a fan to know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know he still raced.
Chase Elliott?
Yeah.
He's like 25 years old.
Okay, so I'm thinking he had a dad, didn't he?
Bill Elliott.
Okay.
That's why he's relevant. Yeah, exactly.
And
there's no Earnhardt, so yeah.
Right. No Earnhardt, no Jimmy Johnson, no Gordon, Jeff Gordon.
Kyle Busch's are there, Harvick's there. But to your point, you're right.
To my point, and so like when I was younger, you saw Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty and even when Jimmy Johnson was going through his big thing and Jeff Gordon was going through a thing, you saw them in commercials. And you saw them on billboards. You saw them everywhere. Now, I don't know about down south. I don't know if they have NASCAR billboards and
I'm sure around the tracks, yeah.
And things like that.
There's one in Dover. There's one outside of Dover.
There's not the next face.
Yeah.
And you can't force it either.
No.
You can't force it. And the NFL does Tom Brady, okay? And people love to hate Tom Brady, just like people love to hate Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
People love to hate Kobe Bryant. People love to hate LeBron James. But you want to know something? When they're on, you watch.
Yeah.
And for the thing, exciting.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, he's exciting.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is exciting. And even when, Buffalo's winning again,
Josh Allen's exciting.
Exactly. And these guys are exciting, and you will watch them. You can't see their face. Like, I'm pretty sure I would walk by Josh Allen and not know who that man is. I might be like, oh, that's a big guy. But I wouldn't know.
They're taller than you think.
Right. But guy. Like Tom Brady, you would walk by and you would know it's Tom Brady.
Well, yeah.
But could you walk by Lamar Jackson and be like, oh, that's Lamar? Or would you be like, that looks like Lamar?
Well, the reason I would know Tom Brady is because I've seen him without his helmet in 6 Super Bowls.
Right.
Right? So I've seen him take his helmet. I know what he looks like, whereas Lamar, I have no idea what he looks like.
Exactly.
Justin,
Justin Jefferson for Minnesota.
No idea what he looks like.
No idea.
Yep.
You know that he plays for Minnesota, and you know what number he wears. I don't even think I know what number he wears.
Is it 17?
It might be. Like I said, but this is the thing. But I know who he is.
Yeah.
And I know what team he plays for, and I know where he went to college.
Yeah. Because
there's no way you can get around watching him play this last year without people saying the rookie from LSU.
Yeah. And here's my question to that. And the reason I brought that up is because in the biggest games of the biggest sports, I go by viewership. A lot of sports are down. Some sports are up. Surprisingly, some sports are up that I didn't think was going to be up. Okay. But the sports that are down is the NBA. And it's been down since the pandemic. People are like, well, there's no fans, there's no this. How does it come back up? And I wonder, is there this mix between not really having the star because LeBron's hurt, or is it because people just don't like basketball like they used to? Has it changed? Are people liking football even more? Or are kids just not as involved in... Like, is basketball not... Has it lost its luster? That's what I'm asking.
No.
Maybe this is a question for Chan and them on, but I want you to answer.
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
I will say this, because the reason why basketball will always be relevant is because you only need one person to play.
Makes sense. Yep.
Okay? You only need one person to practice. You only need one person to, and that's one thing that baseball will never have.
Of course.
Football will never have.
No.
Okay? But you can be anywhere in the world and drive down the street and find a basketball court.
Yeah.
Whether it has nets or not, or there's cracks in the street or whatever.
Doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter. There's always a court. Okay? And so that, to me, then there's always that they've always done a good job with marketing that player. Now, that's the problem, is what's the other shoe that's out there right now?
What do you mean?
There's the LeBrons, but what's the other shoe?
The Kyrie, Durant, Zion's got a shoe, Giannis has a shoe.
But
Russell Westbrook has shoes.
But do they... do you see it? Like when you go into stores, do you...
No, I just got blasted in the face with Zion's new shoe all over my Facebook the other day, though.
Yeah.
But in general,
they're pushing Zion on you.
They're trying really hard to do that.
Because they need that. The NBA knows they need a face.
So this is what I'm asking. It's not that the NBA is going to fail, and not that it's really lost its luster. That's why I just wanted your opinion on that. Is how do you get people to watch again? How do you get Madison Square Garden and LA sold out again? If
basketball, people will go
yeah.
to see. You may lose viewership at home.
That's what I'm asking. Okay. How do they get that back? Because that's where your money's made, your TV contracts.
You got to go back to what you did when you first started putting basketball on live TV.
Okay.
When I was a kid, basketball was on tape delay.
Okay.
Magic and Bird brought the NBA relevancy where when you were watching it on tape delay, all of a sudden the NBA is like, if we have it at this time and we put it live, let's see what happens. Put it live, and it flew. But what they did is, I talked to you about this last week. Sunday, it was a 12:30 game and a 4 o'clock game. Okay? Saturday, they had a Saturday day game. They had the games during the week that nobody watched.
But could
you
work.
Had your prime time games.
But they could make this work because there's no sports on the weekends right now in the summer.
Exactly.
Except for NASCAR.
And that's where they captured.
And that's two different demographics.
And that's where you captured
yeah.
everything. And that's why an East Coast kid could fall in love with a West Coast team because he saw them.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him against the Celtics. I saw him against the Pistons. I saw them play every week on Sunday NBA on it was I can't even remember what the thing was, but you would be advertised all week and it would be Sunday. The Celtics were usually on at 12:30, 1 o'clock because they were the local team that I had. But you would also, if the Celtics weren't playing that Sunday, they'd have the Pistons on. They would have other teams on that you didn't know the players.
Yeah.
And so that's how you grab young fans.
So that's
how you get people excited about the young players.
And that's generally what my point is how does the NBA, and same thing with MLB, having such an older fan base, how do you start to revitalize and change to get people going, you know what? I want to watch that Jazz game.
Baseball is going to be something and it is now, and it's not America's game.
No, it's not.
Okay, it is the I don't even know, what's the Dominican, the Puerto Ricos, Japan. You've got Mexico. You have a lot of nationalities in baseball, and the minority in baseball, I believe, is American, born in America.
Yeah,
and. So it is one of those things where
baseball is not like soccer, where it's a worldwide thing.
Exactly, yes.
But they market it very well to be that way.
So baseball will never go away simply because around a lot of other places, they follow these kids. Who Acuna is, who Soto is, because you know what? When you're in the Dominican, you know who Soto is, because if you're anywhere between the ages of 15 to 30, you might have played with him.
Yeah.
Or you watched him play live, and then you see this local kid go, and now you're paying attention to him. It's like what David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez did for the Dominican Republic and for, the Puerto Rico and everything. They brought relevance to those places, and that built a fan base that isn't going away.
No, that's the thing.
In soccer in the United States, we don't have these academies.
No.
And I don't even know if academies are the right word, but when you're 10 years old, 8 to 10 years old in other countries, you either have a soccer ball attached to your foot or they're playing baseball.
Or you have a basketball, but in general, one of those three. Yeah.
Right? And, that's why football, I think, is always going to be America's sport. Because you don't have Europeans.
You get that that tight end for Washington coming from wherever he's come from. You're like, well, he might not be that good. They don't play football there. Does that make? Well, they do, but right. It's an American sport.
Yes, and so that's why, and so you're looking at it, and you have to try to figure out how to market these people.
Yeah,
and it's hard to market somebody where English is their second language.
Of course,
and that may sound racist to say, that may sound insensitive or whatever, and I don't mean it to be, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
When you're Kellogg's or you're, any brand out there, it's hard to market somebody that doesn't speak English as a natural language.
Well, that's why when you watch baseball, they do interviews after the game. They try a lot of times to have the English-speaking players.
Right.
That same thing after basketball games. They don't always talk to Luka. They talk to other teammates or Mark Cuban because it's hard to understand these players.
Right.
And the normal fan, that doesn't sell to them. They want the born and raised Cleveland,
Yes.
Ohio, the
Yep.
local boy living on the streets. That became, you know what I mean?
And Americans are so egotistical.
No, they are.
And we want to be the best at everything.
Of course.
Okay? So when the Olympics come around, basketball, we want to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, we are
the best.
And it's because we had the best player on our team that was American born.
Yeah.
Now you could probably build a team of Americans from the United States to go and win the Olympics. You probably could, because we have a deeper talent pool. But in baseball, in the World Baseball Classic,
do we ever win?
No, we've never won.
I didn't think so.
I mean, we've done
far.
decent, but we haven't
so.
even made the finals.
Yeah.
In football, we would destroy. You know what I mean? But in soccer, unless it's women's,
women's are good.
But women's soccer, you don't have the professional league in the United States, but the U.S. women's national team has been groomed. You have these young kids coming up through there that are groomed to play that sport, and they are groomed to be on that team.
Yeah.
And they go overseas and are successful, where the United States, you don't have players like the goalie Howard went over there, and he was successful in the European League.
Yeah.
Pulisic is very good, and he plays overseas. But the men's team for the U.S. isn't relevant in soccer.
I think a lot of it has to do with worldwide men's sports, including soccer, is more of a paid thing in smaller communities, whereas women's organized sports aren't as popular in some of these areas. That's why women's teams are more better in big cities like Paris and England. But you can have freaking the Nepal men's team win the world tournament because that's their sport. Does that make sense? So,
and for somebody that is a traditionalist, I love fundamentals. Okay, basketball, I love fundamentals. The three-point game, the carrying the ball all the time, the European step, it's made basketball almost unwatchable for me. Now, I love the game, and I pay attention to it, and I will watch it. But women's basketball, to me, is more fun for me to watch sometimes because of how they play.
They play more old school.
And that's the thing. Like, some of these women are really good.
Yeah, they are.
And it's just one of those things where, and it's because like they want, they go out and they say they want the equal pay. They want this. And I agree. I think everybody should be paid equal, but you should be paid based off of what you bring in. Okay.
Yeah, I'll say that forever. Yeah.
And so like the NBA brings in a ton of money. The
Billions.
WNBA doesn't.
Yeah.
But the money the WNBA does bring in, these women are paid accordingly.
Yeah.
Now, if you talk about the women's national team versus the men's national team for soccer, the big difference there should not be. The women should be paid a hell of a lot more than what the men are paid.
That was a situation I had with somebody on my page the other day, was saying, well, how come this is LeBron James' salary, which was like $35 million, and I think it was the main girl, I can't think of her name right now, really popular. It wasn't Sue Bird, that doesn't sound right. But it was somebody was like, and her salary was like, I think like $21,000 or something crazy. And I was like, well, the one of the biggest reasons is, and I mean this with all due respect, is how about you go to the game and buy a ticket? The hard part is you can't find it on TV and no one goes.
Right.
So if no one buys the tickets, where are the people going to get money to pay these women? And these women deserve $35 million. They're athletes, but you can't pull money out of a magic hat.
Right.
But that's my thing with the World Cup soccer thing that happened. I was floored that the women talked about that. And that's even another thing with the NCAA tournament. The women's workout area was very different than the men's.
Yes.
Like, these are issues that are different because the NCAA tournament for men and women bring in probably close to about the same amount of money. Maybe not close, but they're both huge.
They're same thing. Women college basketball basketball has become a lot bigger.
It has, and same thing with the World Cup in soccer. Men and women's, if not women's, is more popular, but women's NBA and NBA is very different. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know why we don't have this thing going where it is like that. But you said sports are only going to be popular in specific areas.
Yes.
And I think with NBA, I think they just need to do a better job at targeting their demographic and targeting having that face of the sport. Because when LeBron's gone, I'm worried for the NBA.
Like, and people are like, oh, well,
you might get LeBron's
AD.
son. You might get LeBron's son.
But he has to be good.
That's the thing. We don't know.
You just can't be LeBron's son.
Yeah.
And be the face of the league. You have to be good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, and it's you don't even hear about a young player in high school coming up or a player in college coming up that they're saying is the next guy.
No.
And this is where the league, in my opinion, is in trouble. And so you have to start, like me, I love Ja Morant.
Yeah.
I love him.
I think he's freaking talented.
And if Memphis could become relevant, he's somebody that you could, push to that next level.
If he left Memphis and went
somewhere else,
to Miami or LA or something.
But the thing that made, OKC likable was the fact that one of the best players in the league played there.
Yeah.
And I know Chandler would argue with me saying Durant is, the face of the league, but Durant doesn't play enough games right now.
And his personality will never make him the face of the league. He's too negative. It wouldn't happen.
So like I want to know where they're going to go. And it's just like baseball. I want to know who you think the face of the league is and market him.
Yeah.
Make him make people know who he is. Put him on TV. Everybody other than, I don't want to hear about Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton
because they're not playing good,
or
right?
but the thing is they're forced down your throat because they're Yankees.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to hear about Mookie Betts on the Dodgers, or on the when he was on the Red Sox. Who are these other players that are the top players? And it's like I want to see what baseball does, and that's where I think baseball has a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, basketball will never again lose because basketball is an international sport.
Yeah.
You have so many different countries represented in the NBA that it will always be relevant, and everybody will always try to get to the NBA.
Makes sense.
When you're playing in European leagues, your goal is to get to the NBA.
Yeah,
And so that is where I always will say the NBA won't go away, but they need to do a better job to get that viewer at home, because when the stands are always packed, people will always pay the money to go because basketball is a fun sport to watch live. It's not as much fun to watch on TV.
No.
Where football, I feel, is better at home.
Yeah,
because you can see a lot more.
Well, the reason I ask is mainly because a lot of money comes in from TV, and they're going to have to continue to show it on TV, because if they don't show it on TV, I don't know how they're going to make money. Same thing with like MLS. Like you have to buy the MLS channel, but I don't know how the MLS stays in business unless these players don't get paid a lot, because you can't find it. Right. You have to go and watch it. So I want basketball to always stay relevant because I like basketball. Now, what I will say is we talked about the MLB. We were going to talk about it, but we're kind of hitting our time.
Okay.
Do you want to bring that up in the next episode?
Yeah, we can. But our next episode, we'll talk MLB as the season goes on.
We have the guys coming in with us.
Then the next episode we have is going to be, we're going to release it Wednesday morning, hopefully, because we're going to do it Tuesday night. And what we're going to do is me, Christian, Nate, and Logan are going to do a mock draft. We're all going to be picking in different spots, and I have the order that we're going to be doing it, and I like what we're deciding to do. I have the first pick, the fifth pick, the ninth pick, 13th, 17th, 21st, 25th, and 29th. You will have 2, 6, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26, and 30. Mm-hmm. Why do even numbers flow better off the tongue?
It just does, man.
It's like I just read that and I was like, wow. I was like,
that was clean.
All right. Nate is going to do 3, 7, 11, 15, 19, 23, 27, and 31. And then Logan does 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, and 32.
I think why it flows off the tongue better is because a lot of Americans tend to count in twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. That we do that a lot. So, who do we appreciate?
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to do that. It's going to be no trades.
No trades.
And it's who we think the team is going to take.
Now, this is what I wanted to ask, and the guys will hear this, is are we going to do a list of like 60 players, and once it's gone, it's gone?
We're going to do PFF.
Okay.
I'm going to have it on my phone while we're talking to them.
Okay.
And when they pick a player, I click the button on who they pick.
So we know that player's not available when it's our turn.
Exactly.
Team's turn to pick.
Yep.
So we're going to pick based off if we were in control of that team.
Yes.
What we would take at each position.
What we would take, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
At each thing. Now, depending how long it takes, because we'll do discussion, we'll do this, we'll do that.
We'll at least make it to Washington.
We'll get through the first round and hopefully through a second round to see what the teams do in the second round, what we would think they would do. I know I've been doing many mock drafts, and it's weird where people are falling to and all that. So it's
I just did a mock draft and got Christian Barrymore, the defensive lineman, in the third round.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so it's but it's we're excited about that. So Nate and Logan, some originals are coming on, and we're going to do that. So
and then by next time,
after
that, next time we'll have a lot more MLB because we'll have more than just 10 games. We'll have
the next time we're on after next Tuesday is going to be the week after the draft. So we'll have plenty to talk about after the draft.
Yeah, true. So that'll be fun.
So,
so other than that, guys, everybody have a great have a great Friday because you'll be hearing this on Friday. Other than that,
have a good one.
See you guys.